Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Here's Socks. Socks, do you want some dreamies? Look, dreams. Where are they gonna go? I'll put them here. There you are. Socks got a parcel again yesterday from Julian and Graham in Scunthorpe, and he got a Christmas card, a Dreamies Christmas card, and a dozen packets of Dreamies, which is amazing, isn't it, Socks? He was so pleased. Thank you, Julian and Graham, for your gift. Socks was very happy because Socks had been feeling a bit left out after our weekend away, I think. He had friends to look after him, and we saw videos of him, his own videos, through the weekend. But we were away in Whitby for the weekend with friends and having a nice time. Although the storms, if you saw my previous video, were completely crazy. They were meant to be on the west side of the country, and I think they were. I think they were terrible over here and in Wales, but the storm still got across to the east side, where they were bonkers. And it was quite exciting watching the North Sea get all whipped up and come thundering into the harbour, and we almost got blown off the bridge. We ran across laughing because it was so kind of scary, and all the Christmas trees whipping about, which meant that we did less, I suppose, in Whitby than we might have done. I wanted to do some filming, I don't know, up at the Abbey and the church and things. I was going to read for this channel. And of course, you take your camera outside and all you can hear is this whipping wind, which you would have heard on yesterday's video. So there was no chance of doing any kind of reading in situ. But actually it became quite a relaxing weekend, which was necessary after all the weeks of work that have gone on. Whoops, my battery's going to go. I hope it lasts this video. So it was a terrific weekend, and some books might have come out of it. I didn't buy many books at all because of this, not ban that I've put on myself, but the fact that I've been making bag loads of things to read for next year, these mystery bags, so-called mystery bags, to open at the beginning of each month. I don't feel the need. Although shopping in indie bookshops and things, you end up buying something to support. I went to the Whitby bookshop, which is a lovely shop that is on Church Street. And for several years, while the Brenda and Effie books, which of course were all set in Whitby, were coming out, I used to do sometimes 2 signings a year at Beltane and Halloween, and we'd pack the place out. And I think the last one I did was 2012 for Brenda and Effie Forever. But they still had some stock, and they had copies of my Doctor Who books, especially Doctor Who in Wonderland, and a few copies of some of the cartoon books as well. So I went in the middle of the storm and signed all these books and talked about their shop, and met Fiona again, who's the bookseller there. And she was telling me about the Whitby Literary Festival, which will be next November, I believe. So I was kind of angling for an invite to come and talk, perhaps. That would be good. Because by then, hopefully, there'll be a volume that Snow and I have been talking about doing, a kind of Brenda best of. We'll see. It'd be lovely to have a best of Brenda and Effie coming out. And also my Doctor Who Dracula novel from Puffin is very much set in Whitby, and that will be out in the late summer. So I'll have lots of relevant things to flog, which is always good for a festival, that they're relevant. Okay, just a couple of books I bought in Whitby. This was from the bookshop. This was someone, Sarah Clegg, who was doing an event that evening when we were there, and we couldn't get back across the town in the storms in time to see her. This sounds fascinating. The Dead of Winter, The Demons, Witches and Ghosts of Christmas. It's a non-fiction piece talking about spooky stuff and Christmas and traditions of things like the Krampus. The Krampus parade was scaled down this year. It was such a shame. They put so much effort into making all these costumes and doing all these things. We saw a bit of it. They managed to do a bit of the parade. And then I think a lot of it was indoors. We first saw them do all of this in 2016, I think. It's been going for 10 years now, so that was early on. Maybe it was 2018 we saw it. Then it was a complete surprise to see all these furry and fanged and masked creatures parading through the streets, pulling carts full of screaming children and giving out bitter chocolates and playing with all those myths of spookier Christmases, European Christmases. And this book looks as if it's on exactly those kinds of themes. I love all that stuff. Okay, so some folk legend stuff. I'm not sure it's going to fit in with my Christmas reading this year. I've got all of that so organised. And this picture book from Remainder Shop was something I'd read about a while ago and looked up. Walker Books do really lovely picture books. I'll forgive them for that meeting I went down for that time when they didn't buy my book. And then one of them said, "Did you come all this way just for this meeting?" this way, as if I just popped in from Manchester. That's very London publishing. Anyway, they do some nice things. And this is Moose's Book Bus by Inga Moore, which is beautiful. I think she must be Canadian, judging by the animals. Really, really lovely illustration. Very intricate. And a nice bookish read about the value of books and reading together. I think I might do some more reading on this channel over the rest of this month. We'll see. When we got back from our trip, exhausted and rested, and on, what was that, Monday evening, there was post waiting, and my friend Sam Irvin, his new book, had arrived from California. Sam does amazing books. He's one of the monster kids, I think he calls himself. That whole generation of people obsessed with horror films and the monsters of the movies. He's written about all sorts of things. He's written some parodies, usually featuring himself as a character and illustrated by a friend of his. And he's written a biography of Kay Thompson, which was the first time I came across his work. Kay Thompson was the amazing singer and choreographer who later became a kids author and had this most kind of amazing career over decades. And she's the one that steals the movie from Fred Astaire by dancing in, I forget the name of the film, the Audrey Hepburn movie about Paris. One of the Audrey Hepburn movies about Paris. Anyway, there's a number where, as a dancer, she steals the film. And he's written an erotic science fiction novel that during lockdown, lots of things. And this one is Captain Samouflage and the Frank and Sam Scam, illustrated by Dan Gallagher. The Queerdo is it Queerdo superhero parody for grown-up monster kids. And of course, like another of his earlier books, it's perfectly pastiching the old, what do they call them? Golden books, little golden books. They call them something different over here. We didn't have them in the same way, but we had them in, sometimes you'd see them. But the style of the drawings is exactly like, especially those Disney, little golden books, which I have to restrain myself from collecting the series. Another one that I have to stop myself. This is really nicely done. Sam very generously sent us a copy. We have to take a photo later of me and Jeremy and Socks and Panda holding the book up so everyone can see. that we've got our copy. He also wrote about his own history as a director of all kinds of movies, and a book about the making of Frankenstein, the True Story, the 70s TV miniseries, which he knows more about than anybody on the planet. Okay, so that was a nice post to come back to. There was something else as well. Maybe that was it. A box with a dozen packets of Dreamies from Julian and Graham in Scunthorpe, and Sam's book. What more do we need? Now, reading. Socks, what about more? Come on, if you go here, people will see you. Oh no, they've fallen down the side of the chair, some of them. That'll keep you busy. There, look. Can you see? Socks. Don't be so lazy. Ow. He nipped me with his fingers. Come on, eat these ones. Look, look, look. More Dreamies. When we went away on Friday, I was still 100 pages from the end of Lev Grossman's The Bright Sword. And I had to debate about how much I wanted to carry in my luggage. The house in Whitby that we rent, and we have been for 12 years, is very tall and narrow, with lots of staircases. And there's even steps to get up to it. So carrying huge, heavy books is an annoyance, but it's also an inevitability. But this time I was reading this. Socks, come away from... Now I can't get you out of the camera, can I? Don't knock it. Come on. Don't show YouTube your bottom. You'll get us banned. This is colossal, and I was 100 pages from the end. The Bright Sword. And I decided to take it. I wasn't going to break my reading mood. The next book I was moving on to was this tiny little thing, and I thought that was much easier to carry. I took it as well because I got onto it. I read the last 100 pages and went straight onto O. Henry's short stories, which are Christmassy and nice. This is probably my favourite book of the year, I would think. I think it's the best thing I've read. I think it's the book that suits me the most as well. And I kept finding time during this busy weekend with friends to hoover up the last chapters. And it comes to a dramatic and scary climax with a brilliant ending that is so political for now, for the world we're in now, that it kind of takes your breath away a bit. You can see it coming, but I'm so pleased he went there and makes it about issues that are pertinent now. And that's the point, I suppose, about people retelling myth cycles like King Arthur. Every generation has to do it, and they find their own way of doing it. And the stories find their own relevance now, and they certainly do here. And as I've said, there's things we recognise from contemporary culture, in that this book comes via the X-Men movies and the Marvel Universe movies, and Neil Gaiman's retellings of myths, perhaps. Touches of the Sandman, perhaps. So the kind of world of graphic novels is in here. And of course, all of the Arthurian retellings are in here somewhere. I like his afterword, where he talks about the vogue in recent decades, the kind of Bernard Cornwell type take on this material, is to make it realistic, to recognise that lots of what we think of as King Arthur and Arthurian legend is kind of Victorian nostalgia for the Middle Ages, and it's all nonsense, frou-frou nonsense. But you get the feeling that Lev Grossman likes the nonsense, the camp, the frou-frou nonsense. And so his is much more fantastic, and he does have them in armour, and he has dragons, and he has monsters, and magic powers, and flying ships, in a way that we haven't seen for a while, I guess. That blend of magic and myth with realism. There's still a lot of harshness of realism and violence and suffering and real people in this. It reminds me a bit of the things I love, like Susan Cooper in the 70s, writing for kids, ostensibly for kids, in The Dark Is Rising. And you can see how this is kind of continuous with those kinds of 70s retellings of things. The 70s vogue for myth in children's fiction, folk myth, folk tales, and the young character who finds themselves drawn into these myths and becoming part of it, like Will Stanton in The Dark Is Rising. A lot of that has been that energy, that kind of has been taken over with the kind of Harry Potterizing of the world, which is unfortunate, really. Because the best kinds of those myths are ones where they're kind of just poor, ordinary kids, not kids who grow up to find that they belong at public school with a whole load of poshos. Which was a shame. I keep saying it, always a shame about Harry Potter. He didn't go off to a magical comprehensive, did he? In this, our lead hero is poor. And there's this lovely suspicion. I'm going to give you spoilers now, so here's spoiler space. There's a suspicion that he might turn out to be somebody important and connected.